Hello there, and welcome back to the second episode of our Panorama Photography mini-series. In today's episode, I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know on how to capture panorama photos. We're gonna start by going through the panorama photography gear. After that, I'm gonna tell you and show you how to set up your camera. And finally, we will go to the actual location where I'm gonna show you how to capture the best possible panorama photos. Now we are ready, so let's go ahead and look at the gear we're going to need. Okay, so what photography gear we're going to need for the panorama photography? Well, starting from the obvious, we're gonna need a digital camera. It doesn't really matter about the type. Most importantly, it needs to be able to shoot in manual mode. Now don't be worried, it's gonna be super easy, but we want a digital camera that is able to shoot in digital mode. Now, this one is a Sony a7R4, but any will do. After that, we're gonna need lens. Now, if you're starting with panorama photography, go for zoom lens. Of course that you can create panoramas with the prime lens, but the zoom lens will really make your life much easier. Now, we are not looking for anything wide. In fact, we don't want wide lens. What we're looking for is something like 24-70, 24-105 or 24-240, something in this range. So that's a zoom lens. After this, again, if you're starting with panorama photography, and that's probably the reason why you're watching this tutorial, you will need a tripod. Sturdy tripod with one important thing, and that's a head that is able to turn around 360 degrees. So when you put the camera on, you can pan around and take multiple pictures. So second thing we're going to need is a sturdy tripod with head that can pan around. After that, we can get some additional gear. One that comes to mind is a remote release. You can get kind of wireless style, or you can get a remote release you can plug into the camera, and it just helps in overall to make sure that we don't shake the camera and have as sharp pictures as possible. It's not necessary, however, it's a nice addition to the list of the gear. So one more time, 4 things: digital camera, zoom lens, sturdy tripod, and remote release. Now you can spend hundreds of additional dollars on panorama photography gear. However, since we're only starting, this will be more than enough. Now, before we get on with the shooting, we should talk a little bit more about the camera settings. Starting from the beginning, you want to make sure that you are shooting in a RAW format. This digital negative format will help us to make sure that we're getting as much data as possible. After that, moving on the standard or classic settings. Starting with the f-stop, you want to make sure that you are somewhere between f7.1 and f11. By doing that, you will make sure that everything on your image is nicely sharp and focused. Moving to the ISO, set your camera as low as possible. Since we're going to be using tripod, it's not a big deal, so really go into the ISO setting and bring it all the way down, usually to 100. When it comes to shutter speed, this will be a little bit more complex, and I will explain you how we're going to set it up when we start the shooting. And finally, let's talk about some additional camera settings. If you don't have them on your camera, don't worry about it and just use the settings I just mentioned. So from the top, the drive mode should be set to single shooting. After that, moving on to focus. Your focus mode should be on single shot autofocus, and when it comes to the focus area, use whatever you're comfortable with. For me, I'm gonna be using the white. Finally, the white balance should be set to auto, and don't worry too much about it as we're shooting in RAW, and we will be able to adjust it later on. So now we know what camera gear we're going to need, we know how to set it up, so all there is left to do is to get on with the shooting. Okay, so after everything, it's finally time to go ahead and start shooting. We are here in the south of England on this pier, which is great for viewing the opposite harbor of Portsmouth. Now the tower and all the buildings work very well for panorama photography, so we will go at the end of the pier and look for framing. Once we're done with that, we're gonna set up our tripod and start with the shooting.
Now the first step, just as I mentioned, is to determine the framing. Take your time and carefully observe your surroundings. When you are satisfied with the composition, set up your camera on a tripod. For the step number 2, you need to adjust the shutter speed in a manual mode. However, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, I have a little shortcut for you. First, aim your camera at the brightest part of your frame or composition. Then switch your camera to aperture mode and apply the same settings I have explained earlier. Remember ISO 100 and f7.1. After that, take a note of the camera's shutter speed and switch back to the manual mode. Once you're there, apply the same shutter speed as in the aperture mode. And finally, it's time to take your photos. First, make sure your camera is in a portrait mode and aim it at the starting point of your framing. Before you begin capturing the panorama, take a picture of your hand to mark the beginning of the series. Start taking photos from left to right of the composition and keep an eye on the overlap. Make sure you capture at least 20 to 30% overlap in each photo. If you're unsure, take extra photos just to be safe. Remember, more is better than less in this case. Once you reach the end of the sequence, take another photo of your hand to mark the end. Finally, just double check that each photo is sharp and well exposed. When it comes to capturing vertoramas or vertical panoramas, the workflow is similar to panoramas. First, choose the framing and then set up your camera on a tripod. Repeat the same settings and workflow as with panoramas, using f7.1, ISO 100 and the appropriate shutter speed based on the scene. Again, if you need, with a little help of aperture mode. Once you're ready, start taking photos from bottom up, paying extra attention to overlap. For vertoramas, ensure that you have at least 30 to 50% overlap with each photo. And there you have it. So this is how you capture panorama and vertorama. As you can see, we are back in the studio and we have the images already in Luminar NEO. So they are all prepared and ready for the panorama stitching and editing. So this is it for today's episode, and in the next episode I'm gonna show you how to use the panorama stitching in Luminar NEO with the images we have captured. In the meantime, I want to remind you that this tutorial was powered by our Luminar NEO Masterclass. When you're ready to unlock the true potential of this amazing photo editing application, this course is exactly for you. You will be able to dive deep into the world of Luminar NEO with our comprehensive course. It features over 70 lessons packed with over 6 hours of high quality 4K training videos. If you want to find out more about it, head to our website cleverphotographer.com, and if you want to get the best possible price, make sure that you follow the link in the description of this video.
And there you have it. If you want a copy of our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, there is nothing easier than heading to our website cleverphotographer.com/LuminarGift. While you're there, you can also check out one of our popular Luminar NEO products, or you can stay here and watch more videos about Luminar NEO. For today, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment and share on this video. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name was Jakub, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.